Welcome back to Buffalo Sports Insider, the most electric show in the 716. We have a lot to get into today as we have the Bills to go over, some Sabres talk, some NFL Week 4, MLB playoffs, WNBA playoffs. There's a lot so don't miss out. We're going to start off, though, with the Bills as they had a disappointing 35-10 loss on Sunday against the Ravens. Josh Allen had played his heart out, but despite that, had only 200 yards, 0 touchdowns, and a fumble. Caleb, what are your thoughts on why this happened?
To start, I think the Baltimore Ravens deserve credit. They put in a really good Stevens, Marlon Humphrey, Nate Wiggins, Kyle Hamilton, Roquan Smith were all really good in coverage. And they just had a good game plan of not allowing the Buffalo Bills to get a lot of those screen passes and quick passes into more yardage. So it's just a lot of those short yardage plays that ended up being chunk plays just didn't happen. And as far as for Josh, his accuracy was a little bit off, but more than anything, I think it was the wide receivers, tight ends, and running backs weren't getting separation. And when they did, the pass protection was the worst we've seen all year. So overall, I think it was just a sum of all parts, was not a good performance, and that made Josh not perform well either.
Yes, and then one of the biggest questions coming out of this game was the coaching, which had looked phenomenal through the first 3 weeks. This game, they had a lot of questionable decisions. Obviously, as everyone's talked about, the trick play with Joe Brady. There was a couple of punts on 4th and short in the first half. They really set the tone for this game. Colin, what are your thoughts on the coaching in this game?
Yeah, well, you mentioned it, the 4th down decision. So on the opening drive, they go for it on 4th and 1 from the 39, but then they're facing 4th and 2 from the 50, and they opt to punt. And then 2 drives later, they have 4th and 1 from the 39, the exact same spot they had it on the initial 4th down that they did go for, and they opt to punt again and mix in only a Tyler Bass field goal, and that's how you're down 3 possessions suddenly to the Ravens just like that. I was definitely expecting them to be a little bit more aggressive, especially considering Sean McDermott has a decent track record when it comes to going for it on 4th down. And then obviously the trick play is all anyone's been talking about. Despite the confusion and interesting design of the play, I'll say, which has Curtis Samuel running towards Josh Allen, bringing the entire Baltimore defense in that direction as well. It just was not the proper time and place to call a trick play like that when you have momentum in your favor. You're a touchdown and 2-point conversion away from making it a 3-point game, still halfway through the third quarter. Plenty of time to make this a contest again, and just not the right time or place for Joe Brady to make that play call. But he knows it. He said after the game, it wasn't the right timing for the play. I have to have a better feel and understanding of the game. So that's something that I expect they'll work on in the future. I'm not against trick plays, but just not in that specific time and place.
Yep, I agree. And then obviously you're not going to be able to win too many games when your defense allows 35 points and gives up 270 rushing yards. Michelle, what do you think happened to the defense?
It almost looked like we were a little lost out there. Like we had a lot of missing coverage. We looked overwhelmed. I don't know if we were just overwhelmed with the amount of points that they were getting, and we just couldn't keep up. But Jalen Spector and Dorian Williams were not able to defend. Dorian Williams did pick it up a little bit in the second half, but it was not enough to keep us going. And I think that we're really going to have to pick that up next week.
And then moving on to the next game, the Bills do take on the Houston Texans on Sunday at 1 p.m. in Houston. We do have some injury concern, though, as Dion Dawkins, Austin Johnson, Taylor Rapp, and Khalil Shakir did not practice today due to injury, and Terrell Bernard and Karan Johnson are limited. And then Von Miller was also suspended for 4 games yesterday for the personal conduct policy. Colin, what concerns you about this?
I mean, 2 of those names are really big offensive contributors. Dion Dawkins, prior to that Sunday night game, was having another spectacular season to start the year, and now he's on the injury report, the hamstring injury. If he goes down, you're suddenly looking at Ryan Vandermark probably in at left tackle with Tylen Grable currently on injured reserve. And then Khalil Shakir, who's been our most consistent receiver so far, good for 6 catches, 50 yards, and sometimes a touchdown every week. Those are 2 big names that if you lose, you start to wonder how different the offense looks. Obviously, you still have Josh Allen, but you can't just expect him to be Superman and make plays with no one else out there. And then defensively, obviously, you hope Terrell Bernard and Karan Johnson are able to play on Sunday against Houston. I think if we had even just one of those guys in against Baltimore, that game looks a little bit different. So having 2 all-pro caliber players back on defense could be huge for them.
Yep. And then our offense obviously only scored 10 points last week. Caleb, what are you looking for from this offense in the upcoming week?
Pretty simple. Catch the football. There's way too many drops. Dalton Kincaid, it's happened a few times this season. Keon Coleman had one dropped right in the bucket. And both of those guys are known for elite hand in college and for Kincaid in his rookie year. So just catching the football, exploding uphill, and really taking advantage of a safety deal that, in my opinion, isn't that good in Houston. They should definitely be able to get some extra yards.
Yep. And then the defense getting torched last week, obviously, as I already mentioned, 35 points, 270 on the ground. They're facing another elite offense, but in a different way. Michelle, what are you looking to see out of this defense?
I really think we need to step up our game. We cannot let what happened last week happen again. The Texans are a very physical defensive team, and I think we need to figure that out before we even approach it. But I'm excited to see us step up.
And then, Colin, what is your score prediction for this game?
I think it will help that we have some defensive pieces back. Like I said, there's some questions about the offense. I'll go 24-20 Bills.
Caleb, what about you?
I'm going to go 27-14. I think the defense really shows out. And it's kind of cliche, but I'll just say Stephon Diggs playing against Buffalo. I think that defense is going to have a little extra energy. Benford is just going to lock up.
Michelle, what is your score prediction?
I'm going with a more low score. I'm going to go 14-7 Bills.
I'm going to go with 24-17 Bills. I think we do match up much better defensively with Houston, as our strength is our secondary and their strength is passing the ball. I just think our secondary is stronger than their passing back, and I really think it comes down to that. And I think their defense is much worse than Baltimore and Josh Allen, so I think he'll get back on track. Moving on, though, after the break, we have Sebastian to join us to talk to us about the Week 4 of the NFL.
How was school today?
It was good.
Did you play volleyball?
Yes.
How's your serve coming? I think we'll work on it this weekend.
Amy's slumber party is this weekend.
Is your homework done?
No.
That was the deal we made. If you do...
Hi, Lauren. My name is Katie. We're going to take care of you, okay? Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Welcome back to Buffalo Sports Insider. I'm your host, Sebastian Sierra, and joining me here today to talk about NFL Week 4 recaps and a preview of games that happened this upcoming weekend are London McDonald, Spike Bergen, and Nathan Palmer. So starting off with you, Spike, as we talk about the recap of the Detroit Lions and Seattle Seahawks game. What were your thoughts on this game?
Definitely not exactly what I thought it was going to be, but still a great quarterback game between both of them. Geno Smith almost going for 400 passing yards, a touchdown, but did have a singular blemish of an interception. But Jared Goff going a perfect 18 for 18, 292 and 2 touchdowns, along with sealing the deal at the 42-29 win over a division opponent. It's a statement win by the Lions, saying that they can go in and take on a pretty good opponent and come out with not only a great performance, but a historic performance from Jared Goff on that perfect game. And Jahmyr Gibbs with 2 touchdowns and Montgomery having one for himself. This team is looking more scary as the season goes on, and I am very confident that they're going to take this win and move on with that momentum going on for the rest of the season. But for the Seahawks, I don't think this is the worst thing in the world for them because they face a quality opponent in the Detroit Lions, and I think both of them are going to continue to have a great season.
Definitely got to agree with you. I definitely got to agree with you. Overall, great game, great game. Now going on to you, London. What was your overall thoughts of the Saints versus Falcons game that just happened this upcoming?
Oh, that game, that was a nail-biting game right there. If you think about it, the Falcons actually didn't score a touchdown at all this game. All their scoring came from field goals and defensive takeaways. The Falcons they were effective when it came to running the ball, but when it came to passing the ball, you can tell they need to be more efficient and stop turning the ball over. Seems like a lot of times this team keeps getting saved by their kicker, Younghoe Koo. Kirk Cousins hasn't had a bad year, I will say. Just feel like you could tell his mobility is starting to play a big part. He hasn't dealt with pressure at all. He hasn't dealt with pressure that good this year. And the Saints had a sloppy game. From the start, it was a sloppy game. You've seen one of the first plays, not one of the first plays, but there was a punt inside the 10 that the Saints didn't catch, and they caught it, and it was a takeaway. It was a turnover. It was a touchdown for the Falcons. So yeah, it was just too many offensive and defensive mistakes for the Saints.
Definitely, I agree with you. But what do you think the Saints can improve on when it comes to their defense? Like, what do you think they need right now that they could have stand out to beat Falcons?
I feel it was kind of more offensively. The Falcons' defense was pretty good this game, so I feel offensively the Saints actually need to be a little better.
I kind of agree with you. Now going on to you, Nate. What was your thoughts of the Commanders versus Cardinals game that just happened?
2 words. Jay Daniels.
Yes.
Coming out the gate, smoking. He leading the league right now in 82% completion percentage, which is crazy right now. And they pretty much just smoked the Cardinals. They didn't have a chance, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's what I like to hear. And now as we go into previews, what are your thoughts leading into this Jets versus Vikings game, London? Well, Spike.
Well, it's the first game of the overseas this season. I am not too high on my New York Jets, as I'm the touted Jets fan, the unfortunate one here, with Aaron Rodgers being very immobile in the pocket and trying to do stuff that he did with Allen Lazard 5 years ago, with trying to throw the ball in a spot that only Allen Lazard knew to get it, but with the young receiver Wilson, they simply don't have that connection, and that is something you can't do in today's high-powered offenses when you need to move quick. You cannot stop the game of play simply to try to throw a wacky style pass and expect your receiver to go get the ball. It's hurting our offense more than our play calling with Nathaniel Hackett, but that won't ever be an issue until he's gone. And the Vikings are a scary, scary team.
Definitely.
They are putting up offensive points like no other. They are taking care of business on both sides of the ball. They are doing exactly what they need to be a dominant force around the entire league. And before I just get done with my segment, I wanted to give a quick flower handoff to Kenneth Walker, because I did not mention how he also had 3 touchdowns in that Lions game. But for this Jets-Vikings, it could be a very good matchup if the offense of the New York Jets finally decides to put it together.
Definitely an exciting game to look forward to. Now leading on to you, London, as we talk about the Ravens and the Bengals. What are your thoughts leading into this game?
The Bengals need a win. They need a win. It's the 5-week mark. This is a massive game for them, and this is going to be a big contest for them. Both of these teams actually are trying to turn their season around. I definitely want to see if the Bengals are going to be able to stop this run game with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. So this is going to be a great game.
Definitely great. Now going into the final game to talk about, what are your thoughts leading into this game happening this weekend with the Saints versus Chiefs, Nate?
It's going to be a really good game, man. It's going to be interesting to see how Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes adjust to the absence of Rashee Rice, who steps up. The Saints has a really good defense, and Derek Carr has been playing excellent. So I think -5 at home might be a little bit much for the Chiefs in this spot right here. I would actually take the Saints plus points.
That's what I like to hear. And that's it for the NFL segment. And we'll be back after commercial as Colin will host the Sabres preview.
You wouldn't do that. So why do you do this? Distracted driving kills an average of 9 people and injures over 1,000 every day in America. Put down your phone. Lives depend on it. Don't drive intoxicated. Don't drive intoxicated. A sobering message from AAA.
Wrong person. Colin.
Technical difficulties.
Oh. There we go. I think we're good. That's all right.
There you go.
Okay, now that we've sorted through our technical difficulties, we are ready to move on to our Buffalo Sabres segment now. I'm joined by Alex, Thomas, and Michelle. So, guys, since we last talked about the Sabres, we have 3 more preseason games to cover. So, Michelle, why don't you get started with the Sabres win over the Senators?
So the Sabres were on in Germany. Sorry. So we brought up from the Rochester Amherst. We won 3-2 against the Senators. Just to put this out there, Brady Tkachuk, Tim Stutzel, Giroux played against our young guys. I have high hopes. I have high hopes. But other than that, we are continuing that win streak. We are outscoring our opponents 19-8 as of the Senators game. But yeah, the Rochester Americans meeting the Senators was really great. Felix Sandstrom was in goalie. He did a great job against Linus Allmark in goalie for the Senators. Overall, really great. I'm really excited for the season.
Thank you, Michelle. Now, Thomas, that win streak comes to an end against the Columbus Blue Jackets. But like Michelle said, it's really the Amherst, not the Sabres, losing this game. Can you walk us through that loss?
Yeah, so we started this game off a little bit on a heater. Obviously, we've been so good this preseason so far. And then this game, we get flattened. Sean Monahan puts 2 on us. Kirill Marchenko and Pat Johnson with 2 assists as well. So 3 players with 2 assists or like points in general for these guys. They came out, they were ready to play. They have a really young roster too, so I feel like a lot of their younger guys did play in this game, and so it's same with us. But at the same time, most of the main forward core that's going to be in the NHL is also very young, so they have to get them these reps like this in preseason, and that's why they blow us out. On our side, though, Noah Austin does get 3 assists, 3 points, all 3 goals that were scored in this game by the Buffalo Sabres. He assisted on. He's a very good playmaker. He's really starting to impress me a lot more. Bless you, Alex. And kind of just continuing into that, Mason Jost, I believe, is his name. He had a goal in the system in this one. He looked solid as well. So Buffalo did a very good job with the young guys. Zach Mensa had a goal. Just there's a lot that went right, but a lot that went wrong. You want to get these guys some reps, these younger dudes, and we did that.
And Alex, the Sabres were able to bounce back with a win against the Red Wings to close out the preseason. Can you walk us through that victory?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's the Amherst playing as the Sabres are still over in Europe for the upcoming games at the end of this week. So it's hard to get a total feel on how this team's going to be without Oliver's starters. But at the same time, we were able to win the game. I mean, Snaggerty had 2 goals. Helenas had the one in overtime. Noah Austin continued to look really good again. I mean, these young guys are really starting to show out. They show why people have been raving about the Sabres prospects for the last couple of years, because they're finally getting some ice time up in the NHL level, and they've been really, really good. So it's very good to see for a bright future. Even if they don't make the roster, they can be great trade assets down the line. So it's great to see this.
And meanwhile, the main roster of the Sabres, as we keep mentioning, was over in Europe. They play Red Bull Munich, a team from Germany, end up winning 5-0. Goals from Sam Lafferty, Tage Thompson.
A lot of softies, if you will, though. Like, their goalie played very bad.
Yeah, Dylan Cousins, Jack Quinn, and JJ Peterka. Well, that's what you're going to get when it's not a real NHL team, no NHL caliber goalies for Red Bull Munich. Overall, we've had a preseason game now in Europe, and now the Sabres are gearing up for 2 games in Prague to start the season. I was just curious on what your guys' overall thoughts were on the NHL having regular season games played in Europe. Michelle, if you want to start with that.
I think it's exciting, a good start to the season for anybody. I just hope the pressure doesn't get to us on being there and facing the Devils. But I think it's exciting, and I think they're really excited to be in a new atmosphere and get that experience.
Yeah, I would kind of agree on that. I really do like the idea, especially in a smaller place like Prague. Obviously, we know there's a ton of countries like Switzerland that's prominent, Russia's prominent, all these different countries in Europe that are very prominent in hockey. Obviously, Germany's on the come up. We have one of them in JJ Peterka on our roster. So, like, the more underdeveloped countries are kind of getting involved. It's really nice to see, and I really like to see that for this in general to get to the NHL level.
Yeah, I think it's also pretty cool, especially as a Sabres fan. We get to start the season a couple days early. I'm only a couple days, but I'm impatient, so I want to see Sabres their season hockey. So it's cool. We get to start on Friday and Saturday and Tuesday, Wednesday, like the rest of the NHL. But from the other side, as just a hockey fan, it's also great. I love to see sports venture out of the U.S. to really grow the game, because when sports are booming, life is great. So it's great to see the popularity grow.
So the Sabres right now have an expanded roster in Europe, 27 players, as opposed to the 23 they'll have to cut down to once they return from their road trip. So with 27 players, we're expecting a few to be sent back down to Rochester, including a goalie, probably 2 defensemen, and one more forward. One forward that could be potentially sent back down to Rochester is Yuri Kulik, who I know a lot of fans are eager to hopefully see in the NHL some point in the very near future. Michelle, let's start with you again. Do you think this is the year he finally makes the team?
I think he has a really good chance this season. He's only 20 years old, and over the last 2 years, he's had 51 goals and 91 points, and that's in 119 games, I believe. But he's a really great goal scorer. He's made so much improvement. He has a really good competitive side. So I think put all that together, get him in with the pressure of the NHL, he'll make a really great guy on our roster.
Yeah, I'm going to second that. I think he does make the roster as well. As you alluded to, Colin, I think that the 4 main players that are going to get sent down are a forward, 2 defensemen, and a goalie. Goalie, I think, is going to be James Reiner. The 2 defensemen are probably going to be Dennis Gilbert. And then on the opposite side there, Clague, who really hasn't been inspiring these last couple of weeks. And then on top of that, in the forward core, Isaac Rusek is still there. I think Rusek would be sent down before Kulik would. So giving Kulik to make the roster, I really like the up-and-coming kid, and looking to see that goal scoring clutch at the NHL level.
Yeah, I'd love to see Kulik on that third line. I'm envisioning him with McLeod and Zucker. I think Zucker and Kulich could easily average 35, 40 goals next year with McLeod's speed and playmaking. I think he can set him up for a lot of really nice shots.
And finally, as we get closer and closer to the start of the regular season for the Sabres, guys, what's one thing you're looking for this team to improve upon from last year going into this year?
Personally, for me, I would say the power play. Last year, or 2 years ago, it was one of the best, and our offense was third in goals. Last year was one of the worst, and our offense was kind of towards the bottom of the pack in goals. Our power play was the main reason why our offense was so much worse, because all it was just trying to set Tage Thompson up for one-timers. It was just passes along the blue line and just slowly move around, and then maybe a defender will leave him open, but no one really wants to leave Tage Thompson open on the power play for a one-timer because he's so good at it. This year, they decided to be more so active at the net. You see 2 or 3 guys at the net at all times, deflecting passes, moving around, and because of that, it might actually be able to open up more passes for Tage Thompson at the one-timer because there's more confusion and chaos there that I think will open up a lot more chances for us to get like easy tip-in goals that we didn't have in years past. And I'm really excited to see that.
I'm really looking forward to the aggressiveness, the more physical play that we've been seeing in the preseason. I think that's really great for us. We were more of a softer team the past couple seasons, and that connection that we have with each other that we've been already seeing, I think that's going to be great in our competitiveness as a team.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a more consistent offense, kind of how Alex alluded to. That power play was very atrocious last year. I want to see the entire team do better on the offensive side, not just when we have one guy less on the other team. We were one of the lower teams at the back end of last season in 5-on-5 goals, and that's a big problem, especially now with Lindy Ruff. I feel like we're going to have that intensity, as Michelle alluded to as well. And with that extra added intensity, that's going to make it a lot more physical of a game on these other teams. We're going to be able to really hurt them and make them fear the Buffalo Sabres for the first time in a very long time. So give me that offense to finally get into a consistent rhythm this season.
All right, thank you guys. I like all of your thoughts. Hopefully we start off with a couple wins overseas for this Buffalo Sabres 2024 season. We'll be back in a minute with 4 new faces, just talking some general sports in a roundtable when we come back.
How was school today?
It was good.
Did you play volleyball?
Yes.
How's your serve coming? I think we'll work on it this weekend.
Amy's lumber party is this weekend.
Is your homework done?
No.
That was the deal we made. If you do...
Hi, Lauren. My name is Katie. We're going to take care of you, okay? Ready? 1, 2,
You wouldn't do that. So why do you do this? Distracted driving kills an average of 9 people and injures over 1,000 every day in America. Put down your phone. Lives depend on it. Don't drive intoxicated. Don't drive intoxicated. A sobering message from AAA.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Buffalo Sports Center. I'm Thomas Bailey with London, Antonio, and Nate. We're going to talk some baseball and WNBA for our final segment here today. So we're going to kick it off with some baseball. Obviously, we are in October, so you know what time it is. It's postseason baseball at its finest. And we're back for another postseason here in the 2024 MLB season. So before we hop into the playoffs exactly, we're going to just kind of brief everybody on the occurrence on Monday. Obviously, we had the NL completely out of whack. We had 3 teams that could make the playoffs: the Diamondbacks, Braves, and Mets. Mets and Braves in a doubleheader. If the 2 teams split those 2 games, the Mets and Braves would make the playoffs. If one of the teams won both games, then the Diamondbacks would be in. And it ended up being the first option being the Mets and Braves both making it by winning 1 game each. Francisco Lindor saves the day for the Mets with a 2-run homer in the top of the 9th inning to give the Mets an 8-7 win in the first game, and then a 3-0 shutout victory for the Braves in Game 2 to solidify their playoff spot as well. The Braves winning that second game get the 5 seed, so they take on the Padres. The Mets in the 6th seed taking on the Brewers as the NL is finally set. We're ready to go. Playoff baseball. So we're going to start Yankees and the Guardians with byes in the first half of this one. Obviously, they don't have to play in the wild card due to their great schedules and records this season. And then on the opposite side, we have the Dodgers and the Phillies, who didn't have to play in the NL. So we're going to hop in right away. Astros and Tigers, Nate. Scooble went nuts in this one. They had a 3-0 lead after dominant inning early on in the game. They had this one in the bag all the way to the 9th inning, and they almost choked it away. Nate, what are your thoughts on Game 1 of the Astros-Tigers?
Well, like you said, man, Scooble was amazing. I think that was his first playoff start, so he did good. But as you know, I picked the Astros to come out of the AL. I'm not jumping off that bandwagon just yet. I think Hunter Brown will come back and tie the series today.
Yeah, it was a very good game. So what do you have to say on that 9th inning chaoticness that happened at the end?
I think that it gives the Astros great momentum going into Game 2, finishing the game like that. I know it started out slow because, Scooble was, they couldn't hit him. But they pretty much came back with that bullpen against the Tigers bullpen, and I think that momentum can carry them over into Game 2.
Yeah, so right now the Tigers and the Astros are playing in their game. It is 0-0 in the bottom of the 2nd inning. The Astros have 2 runners on first and second. So we'll keep you guys updated on that as we go along. But we're going to hop into Antonio's series here, and that is the Royals taking on the Orioles. The Royals with a 1-run win. 1-0 in this one. Absolute masterclass from both pitchers in this one. Corbin Burns and Reagans both really dominated the field today. And realistically, for Bobby Witt, that single that gives them the run was only possible because Garcia stole the base. So, Antonio, what are your thoughts on this series so far?
So far, and be such a pitcher's duel, but that's what we got yesterday. Got to feel bad for Corbin Burns. Went out there, did what you expect to see from the ace of your team, gave them 8 innings of great pitching, even went into the 9th before giving up a walk and getting taken out. It's disappointing for the Orioles. It's their 9th straight loss in the playoffs. They haven't seen a win in the playoffs since 2014. For a team during the regular season, they were top 10 in so many different offensive categories. So as a fan, you expected them to come out showing a lot in the first game, and they did the exact opposite. 0 runs from so many of their amazing all-star level talent. You got to hope they could bounce back for Game 2.
Yeah, speaking of which, Game 2 is later on today at 4:40 p.m. as we look to see if the Orioles can tie the series or if the Royals will continue their dynastic run, if you will, on a potential chance to make their way to the World Series for the first time since 2014. And then lastly here, London, we're going to hop into your game. We're going to talk about the Padres and the Braves. What are your thoughts on this series so far? 4-0 shutout win for the Padres, 3-0 after the 2nd inning. Very dominating performance
Padres came out
You don't have to ask
swinging,
myself.
taking a 1-0 lead, and then they took a 3-0 lead by the end of the second frame. The Braves looked flat, not being able to respond as the Padres' quick start. The Braves managed just 7 hits in the game as Michael King struck out 12 batters for the Padres. The Padres looked superior in every aspect. They dominated their way to that 4-0 win and a 1-0 series lead. They play again at 8:40 tonight, so definitely going to see how that game is.
Yeah, thank you, London, on that. And then lastly, my New York Mets did it. We beat
New York Mets did it. We Milwaukee Brewers 8-4. Man, I can't believe we did it. It started out a little upsetting as they took a 2-0 lead at the bottom of the first. Then in the second inning, the Mets would score 3 straight runs before 2 more runs in the bottom of the fourth put the Brewers back on top 4-3, and the Mets would rally once again with 5 runs in the top of the fifth to give them an 8-4 win. We would not look back from there, taking home the W in Game 1, meaning we are 1 game away from advancing to the NLDS to probably get smoked by the Phillies, but I don't care, man, because, man, who would have saw this one happening? I thought it was a very good series, so I'm excited to see how the playoffs go moving forward. We play today at 7:40 p.m. approximately, so we'll see how that series goes. Thank you guys so much for the MLB segment, and that's it for that. Moving into the WNBA, we had a ton of different stuff to talk about, but the first round of the playoffs is officially over, all series ending in a 2-0 win. The Aces defeated the Seattle Storm, the Liberty defeating the Dream. And then in the Western Conference, you had the Lynx taking down their opponent and the Sun taking down their opponent. Nate, what are your thoughts on that series in the East right now? The Liberty smoking the Aces 2-0 right now. Can the Aces make a improbable comeback to win the series 3-2, or do the Liberty advance to the finals?
Right now, man, I think the Liberty look like a team that's determined to get over that hump. The Aces, I think, this the 3rd year in a row they're chasing the chip. It just might be fatigue. It might just be, all those games over the course of the last 3 years might be beaten down on them. But the Liberty look like the superior team this year. And I think that if they could get past this hurdle, they have a good chance of raising that banner this year in New York.
Yeah, and then London. In the other conference, we have the Sun and the Lynx. The Lynx taking down
the Phoenix Mercury, and then the Sun taking down the Indiana Fever. Right now, the series is tied at 1 after a 73-70 Game 1 win by the Sun, and then in Game 2, 77-70 with the Lynx winning. So what are your thoughts on that series so far, and who do you think inevitably wins the series at the end?
I love the Lynx.
Love the Lynx. They have a lot of defensive power, offensive power, but I'm taking the Suns. After that Marina Marbury trade, I think they're a different team right now. Even in the other game, I think it was Game 1. In the last 4 minutes of the game, the Suns held the Lynx to 4 points in the final quarter. So I feel if they could play like that and put that defense up on any team, they're a contender.
All right. Thank you
guys so much for watching another episode of Buffalo Sports Insider. Make sure you tune into our website, buffalosportsinsider.com, for more stories every week and every day. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you all next time on Buffalo Sports Insider.